Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. If you're here for the first time, my name is Mark Stalker D, aka Deeyana Angelo. I'm a Series 3 qualified futures trader. I just managed to twist my ankle, so right now I'm going with some cold sweats. I was coming down the stairs and I tripped, so yeah. So we'll see how bad that is. Whew, let me try and put my legs up. Okay, right now I've got like cold sweat coming over me. So, we actually have roofers that are getting rid of the scaffolding at the moment. But yeah, not a great start to my week. I do have a short gold on, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but so far it does seem like the calls are being reactive. We would need to crack initial balance high to the downside in order for this trade to work. There was already a bit of a reaction from the London average session range high. And that's kind of where my stop is. So basically, if we manage to stay below it, then this trade is still valid. If we don't, so be it, and that's probably going to be the trade for the day, because if this cold sweat and pain continues, I may have to get myself to the accident and emergency for a bit of a scan. But yeah, so that's not really something that I planned today, but it is what it is. Yeah. All right, let's have some more caffeine. Oh, God. All right, so what did I see here? So first and foremost, we do have a GAX2 level at 2770 and the average session range high. Now, we opened with a pretty decent gap down when it comes to the London value area from Friday. Whenever we have pretty large gaps that are over sort of 0.4, 0.5% on the day, the mean reversions tend to be a little bit iffy. And today we had an open that was about 0.8%, and that's already verging on a pretty big gap. What's the implication of this? The fact that it's so far down, and it's kind of tried to close the gap up very quickly. It slowed down. So usually with large gaps, we don't really expect a full mean reversion. We expect the price to try to get up there and then to fail. So that is what I'm doing here. But the actual setup that I'm attempting would be more of a hybrid between an auction fade and a failed auction. Why is it the auction fade? Because we came up a little bit higher from the initial balance, and that opens up the possibility for that fade back down and then maybe a continuation past VWAP. Now that would be the ideal thing, but obviously if it continues higher into a mean reversion, that will mean that we have a different sort of trade. We will have a sustained auction at that point. But again, I am using a 41 tick stop here. So if I get hit for that, that will be 410 ticks. It's pretty easy to calculate that, because GC is 10 ticks a pop, a tick. Oh, God, okay. Happy Monday, indeed. All right, let's see who is in the chat this morning. Dan Trader says, hope you had a great weekend. I had a great weekend, but so far my Monday is not doing so well. We have Bruno posting the risk disclosure. So even though I'm a Series 3 qualified trader, I'm not a CTA or a CPO. So that still means this is all for educational purposes only. Do not follow any trades unless they match your plan. And this is more of a class. So, I basically want to take the time to answer the questions and to kind of clarify some of the setups. Now, GC typically doesn't really trend all that much during London. You will typically see the bigger moves for the COMEX session, which is much later in the day. But today they seem to have tried to definitely make a run that is a little bit out of the ordinary. And that can also mean they overshot and then they start to mess around. So a couple of things that I would like to see here. This is a 5-minute chart. So on the 5-minute chart, there is a pretty decent bearish engulfing. And we'll see whether this newly formed supply at the ASR high can actually give us that short that I'm looking for. On my other screen, I do have bookmap. And for now, delta is positive. So we really need that to flip the other way. Otherwise, there is no trade here. Now, I never really try to fish for tops and bottoms. So what I look for is some sort of a reaction first, and then I will go in for that middle move. But yeah, if this continues, then it has a pretty decent chance of going much, much lower. You can also see on the daily chart there is some supply here. So we have that larger time frame support or resistance, in fact. So yeah, we have some larger time frame areas that could be problematic for any further moves up. There is a little bit of a speed bump here. Now these are called the unclean arrivals. God, I can't even speak. So unclean arrival is when we kind of stair step higher and then create additional speed bumps on the way to the opposite side. So basically continuing the move up. And if that happens, then we're going to go deeper into the supply. And we'll have to come up with some more hypos. But the most obvious thing is that we will stay below the ASR high. If we don't, and if we go higher, that means the day is unusual. And it does open up the possibility for that mean reversion all the way back up to value low, which is currently located all the way up at 2778, roughly. So I'm rounding that up. The actual number here is 2777.8. But for now, it's not exactly running there. So we already had one reaction, which pushed me into this trade. And now we just need to track it. So this is a 30-minute chart. Previous candle had a bit of a sell-off. So a bit of a wick to the downside. And now they're slowing down. So we are building structure with 2 TPOs. Now, once we get to about 3 or 4 TPOs, that basically means that the structure is definitely taking hold. And you can also see this anchored VWAP here, probably from a low somewhere. Yeah, so yeah, all of that means that we had the typical reversal. This would be a form of a Frankie fake out. So we touched it, reversed, shot up, and now we're effectively exhausting the London average session range. I use the calculation from the shortened London, so I don't mix the overlap and COMEX. So shortened London means from London open all the way to the COMEX open. So 8 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. is what that looks like. And that's where I got the high from. So basically over the last sort of 10 to 14 days, this is how much we've moved for London before some sort of a sell-off. So that's the whole idea here. So it's a calculation, and then it's our job to see whether there was a reaction. So there was one. Whether it's sustained, that's an entirely different thing. But yeah, we could be in for an unusual day if we overshoot this, and then if we can break to the upside, just kind of going pros and cons when it comes to the trade. If we can go above 2770, that would definitely be an invalidation of this trade. So not just going over it, but also sustaining above it. So we'll see how they behave. But yeah, so if we overshoot, then that's a sustained auction. And with sustained auctions, I generally go into them very, very late. Because I want to confirm that they really are going into that trending move. For now, it's literally just distributing. So this is a 15-minute chart, and for now, it's just staying in that same area that we popped up about roughly half an hour ago. So we popped up, couldn't really go higher, and on a 15-minute chart we still don't have a higher high. So all of that is positive, but obviously anything could happen, which is why we have our stops in place. Charles Memphis Zofke says, do you use the previous day initial balance, or is it the current days? So we use the current day's initial balance, but the previous session's value area. So that's one of the things that I didn't fully grasp when I first came across the profile and when I first read Dalton's book. Now, Dalton will be on Topstep. I'm pretty sure it's actually this week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. And we have a week pack full of stuff. So we have the draft coming on Wednesday. I'm also going to be on tomorrow for lunchbox trading. So you're going to be seeing me a little bit more this week on the main broadcast. Now, yeah, so when I first started reading the profile, I was like, okay, so current day's value and current day's initial balance. But then I was like, this is not working. Like, what is going on? And then at one point, a colleague of mine who was a funded trader, he kind of turned around and he was like, what are you talking about? The value is like nowhere near. And I went, but what do you mean it's nowhere near? It's like, it's here. And then he said, what are you looking at? And I went, well, I'm looking at, current days. And he said, no, it's the previous session value, but a current day initial balance. So hopefully that clears that up. And, the open sentiment is what I refer to for the open. So it's like, where are we opening in relation to the value? Are we lower, higher, and how far from that area? If it's too far, it means a repricing of some sort. It doesn't mean, oh yeah, this is definitely a mean reversion opportunity. So typically if it's over 1% distance, the open from the edge of value, that doesn't lend itself to mean reversion. So it has a very low probability of reaching the full value. And this is why we try to kind of fade these sort of moves. Oh my God. This ankle is just really causing me trouble. I'm a little bit worried. I twisted ankles many times before, but what happened this time around is that I actually got dizzy and I kind of felt numb, and then I had like cold sweat coming over me. So I don't know whether I broke it maybe or something. I don't know. I hope not. I've never really broken anything in my life, but I'm getting to that age where things start to be a little bit trickier. So we'll see. And it's still like really kind of numb and cold, so I don't know. It's definitely not a great start to my weekend. And if I did break it, that's gonna be fun. Oh God. Gianni has a pretty good question here. He says, at what time in the morning do you receive gamma level from Mentor Q London time? Okay, so in that first release that you get, if you're not using intraday levels, they typically use the levels from the previous day. So in a way, it is lagging information. And for some products, they have intraday. Now, they don't really have intraday for gold, but they do have it on something like SPX, which you can convert for equities. And then, you can see whether there's some extra changes going on. But unfortunately for gold, it's one of those products where it's just not. Okay, so that didn't work out. We smacked through the GEX2. And now the question is whether we stay above it or we just touch it and reverse. And if that happens, I'm going to be a bit annoyed because I got top ticked. But for now, there's nothing else for me to do. So I tried to trade, didn't work out, hands off until we turn around again or go higher. So that is usually how I write my hypos. So I will have one hypo that says ASR high reversal and auction fade into failed auction. So that will be one. And then for the second one, let's move that somewhere so we can see it. Okay. Then for the second one will be sustained auction up, mean reversion. So then question mark would be like, what target do you use? Because it's like if it's too far up, that's not a good target. If it's somewhere in the vicinity, then it's fine. But around about this time, gold tends to slow down. So I'm not really that in favor of that. If we get some sort of a neutral day, which I don't think we're going to get today, but I usually like to reserve one for that, it would be a neutral day, fade all the way from the low side. So if we go rotating through initial balance all the way to the other side, then you may have that nice fade once we extend initial balance to both sides. And then I look to snipe it from all the way here to the middle. Okay. Now, since this didn't quite work out, and I don't want to dig a deeper hole here, I'm probably going to move to micros because I don't like it when the trade that I try doesn't work out. And then I cut size because it gives you more swings at the bat, and that's how I tend to effectively get myself out of holes. So I'm pretty good at doing that. And now how do we do that? So one thing is to stay on a higher time frame. So no more 100 tick chart, no more 5-minute chart. So I usually like to stay on 15 and or a 30-minute chart, waiting for full reversal because that tends to have a bit more juice in it. But at the same time, I will be still looking for some sort of an indication that shorts are still there, but I cannot keep trading with like just one lot and then doubling and then, doing stupid things like that. So in order to drag yourself out of a drawdown, I will typically cut size and then look to get the same chunk, which should cover the loss and then some. And then once that happens, you can look for another trade maybe on the same position size. So you basically go up. You earn the right to trade with size. So the first trade doesn't work out. That means you have to adjust your risk parameters. Now, I will be the VIP coach from Wednesday. We're having a draft this week. And yeah, so this will be one of the things we're going to talk about, positioning and position management. All right, so for now, there's nothing else for me to do for another 4 minutes at the very least. But it does look like they wanted a liquidity grab. However, nothing is done just yet. So let's stay on the 30 minutes. Another thing that I want to see is that the 30-minute chart actually turns black. So it goes red, Without that, this is still just, intra-candle movement, and we don't really want that. So I want to make sure that the next trade that I do is taken from a slightly larger time frame. So you can front run a trade, but if the front run of the trade, which is what I try to do here, doesn't work, then you have to go up to a higher time frame and wait. So effectively, you are earning the right to enter the next trade. So you don't just click buttons and keep front running, and then you're done for the day. You need to be a little bit more mindful about what sort of account management you should be using based on the number of trades you've done. So, for example, if you do 2 trades, both of them don't work out, and you get hit for -2R. Usually I will either wait for like 3-4 hours for the next session, or I will just walk away for the day. So that's definitely another thing to consider. Do you have the gamma levels for ES or SPX? Yes, I can drag them out for you. Just give me a second. So on ES, because so much of the volume is actually coming from the actual options, we don't really need to do much to it. But let's see where we are. However, with this move down, I don't know whether they're going to have any relevant levels, so I may have to use... Yeah, so for all intents and purposes, they overshot all levels. So I am going to convert SPX intraday levels, which get an extra screenshot about 4 or 5 times a day on MentorQ from what I've seen. But some conversion of the levels has to take place. Oh, okay. What am I looking for? Intraday. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen here. And then from SPX into current ES futures. Yeah, I mean, even that is just overshot. So we don't actually have any nearby levels from the options unless I wait for another snapshot, and then that might change. But for now, they're in a very fierce downtrend. I mean, this is pretty horrendous. Let's have a look at ES for a second. I mean, look at that. Very far from VWAP, very far from everything. This looks to me to be a single direction day in equities. Strangely, DAX is not doing that. So I'll show you DAX. DAX is a lot more sane. So yeah, DAX is just doing its thing. It had a run down, but for all intents and purposes, it's still within the norms because we hit the ADR low and then we reversed. So that is a pretty good setup. Now we're going over VWAP, and if we manage to stay above VWAP, that would be a good thing. But yeah, as far as the ES goes, they overshot everything, and that's a single direction outlier day where unless you get like some kind of a committed reversal, you really don't want to go against it. Now, one way to fish for reversals is to wait until they really make a proper turnaround. So don't fish for bottoms, but instead just try to wait until it kind of goes into a standard deviation zone. So just to drift higher, and then we can maybe try some sort of a mean reversion, but don't try to go much higher than VWAP, because that's usually where they stop. That's the mean that a lot of people use today. So therefore, it's it's a very good target. Oh Christ. Mystic Way says, "Hi Dee, your charts are only available on Topstep." Well, I mean, I have my other charts, which are on AMP Futures MetaTrader 5, but those are obviously from my company. So we do have a company called Blatek that creates all of my tools that you've seen here. So including this backtest mode, which is pretty nifty, because you can see the initial balance, you can see the failed auctions, you can see a whole bunch of stuff, you can see the volume profile, and it all just changes as you kind of go back and forth, so you can see which levels reacted. However, I do use Topstep X for my executions, and yeah. Now, I will say one thing: whenever we have just a singular, direction day, up or down, I find those very difficult because without some sort of a pullback to go along with the move, it's very tough for me to manage risk, because it's like, where do you put your stops? Really, the last swing was all the way up here, but you're for sure not going to be trading with like a 70-point stop loss intraday. So that would be a bad approach. Maybe if we start going down, but I mean, even on a 5-minute chart, I still don't see any structure. And when we don't have structure, it becomes, very, very difficult. So, and then I'm not, I don't like doing breakout trades either, because we've fallen so far. And at any point, this can just whip back up. So either side, it becomes like super, super difficult to trade. If you're going to do breakouts, the only product that would maybe lend itself well to that, just like a quick momentum break and then get out, would be NQ, because the breaks on NQ offer just enough ticks in order for you to make that trade worthwhile in like 3.5 seconds. But then if that doesn't work, this is where people start to lose their mental capital and start doing stupid things. So yeah, it depends on your personality. Let's have a look at NQ for a second. Oh God, okay. I'm still sweating. God, I do hope I didn't break it. I really do hope I didn't break my foot. Oh my God. And I know why I tripped up. There was a dog toy that somebody left, and I have one of those English home sort of half spiral staircase. So they left it on the widest point of the staircase, and I tried to go on the narrow part of the semi-spiral staircase. Yeah, so if we have a look at how many ticks Nasdaq just gave us on the break, it's already like 30 points in profit, right? Now 30 points is about 120 ticks, and then if I go to ES, that's not going to be anything near that. Yeah, on ES it's only 9 points, so you can see how the breakouts, they just don't, to me they don't offer enough on something like ES. So if you're going to do a breakout trade, if you're a momentum type trader, NQ should be your baby. As long as you don't try and hold it until the cows come home, it's going to be down to see money, take money, right? And I'm kind of not that kind of a trader, so I like to sit on my trades. And whenever something happens like really quickly, even if it's like 120 ticks, I'm just like, I want more, because I can see things happening on the larger time frame structure. But there are products that are good for that, like DAX, ES, even gold to a degree. But products like, let's say, NQ, what else is that? Like Dow as well. That would be similar, slightly less crazy, but still offers a lot of movement. That would be more quicker trades. You get your movement, you get out, and you're done. So if you can stop after that, stop like between 1 and 3 trades on the day, that's really the best thing to do on fast moving products. And that's kind of how I traded crude oil during COVID. Like if you go through my channel, I used to have like live streams and stuff. But yeah, crude oil was so quick. and you would get into a trade, you would get like 70 ticks in like 3.5 seconds, and then another setup would appear like literally a few seconds later. So yeah. Ow, ow, ow. Okay. Christian said, just clipped another 90 ES points short for a total of 150 on the day. I'm out. Great. Just lock it up. That's a brilliant day, and just finish up the day. Aja says, I just did the breakout on NQ and closed it using bookmark for exiting. Has worked well. Yeah. So something that's very good with NQ and bookmap is it offers a lot of quick information. So if you can digest that sort of opportunity, that would be excellent. However, like I said, I hate doing that because NQ doesn't necessarily respect levels. That's another thing that I'm not too happy about on NQ, and it's totally a personal preference. It's not like anything to do with the product itself. It's just it's a feature of NQ, and if you're not Coach Ray was here last week, and he was saying that NQ brings up some bad behaviors in him, and I think many people are like that. So yeah, be careful. If you're emotionally stable and NQ shenanigans don't bother you too much, then go for NQ. But otherwise, if you find that the consistency is a problem, perhaps it's time to try something else. And in that case, Dow would be a good alternative. I know that Jack hates Dow, but I'm actually in favor of it. I quite like trading it just from a day trading perspective, where it offers a lot of movement, but it respects levels. It gets up to the level and it orderly turns around. Whereas NQ is like, let's whip through VWAP by about 50 points and then come back. And it's like, oh yeah, we've reclaimed VWAP. VWAP is like a short of it. Like, really. So yeah, that's just me maybe being a bit of a purist or something. So yeah. JT Prop Trade says, I'm putting in a buy at 20,700 on NQ. That's an 1,100 point dive for possible bounce. So JT Prop Trades, if you're doing that, just make sure that there's some kind of an algorithmic range down there, or an extension of some sort like S1, S2, and then you can maybe fish for an algorithmic bounce there. There are algorithms that fish for those kind of things. And I'm not really in favor of limit orders on this sort of a day because it can just kind of slice through it and keep going. And we've seen NQ even do like 3,000 ticks in a day when it really goes nuts. And then it does these like very, very violent pullbacks. So if you manage to catch one of those, great. But is the limit order really a good thing? I mean, maybe if you have a 200 MA, that would be a good point. Or if you have some kind of a longer term VWAP or something, that would also be a pretty good pretty good level. Otherwise, I would just kind of leave it alone and wait for another day. I'm terrible with like trending days. Those are kind of my kryptonite, I suppose. When the trend is just like in one direction, there's no turnarounds, there's nothing. I'm just not very good at that. Sometimes I can catch a quick move, maybe if it's like a DAX or something, because it doesn't whip around as much. But overall, when I look back through my stats, it's always the single direction trend days where I don't do very well. I prefer either a nice kind of rotation in one direction and then, comes back and rotates all the way down. And those tend to be more normal days, bizarrely. So trending days are the outliers. Trending days will only happen, about, 20 to 40%, depends on what you're trading. Something like ES, last time I looked at it, statistically, it was only trending about 32% of the days. NQ was trending 35% of the days. And we're talking like a fierce single direction, fierce single direction trend day. No pullbacks, just kind of shoots up or shoots down. Gold has a higher incidence of single trend days, so that's sitting around 40%. Yeah, so that's about 40%, which is why you see some GC traders that are actually doing pretty well for a time, and then that kind of goes away, and they blow out of the account. So, yeah. There's still nothing on gold. We made a new higher high, but we're still distributing when it comes to the TPOs, and we do have 3 TPOs. On the profile starting from 27.1694. So what does that mean? Well, if I still want my short, I need to have the price action go well below 2767.4. If it doesn't, the setup is not there or the reversal is not strong enough. I like to delineate the reversals between strong and weak, right? You can have a weak reversal that's almost like a failed bearish engulfing, where it tries to turn around, but then it pulls up and creates a buying wick. I don't want to see that when I'm trying to short it after a big move up like this. I want to see a committed move that stays under my level of reference and creates that strong engulfing pattern. I know that Dakota goes for 3-bar reversals. I like the 2-bar reversals, even though I've seen him call the bearish engulfings, which is typically 2-bar. He looks at the previous candle as well, and then he calls that a 3-bar reversal. But yeah, I've gone a little bit deeper into the price action signals that worked for me over the years. And yeah, the bearish engulfing, strong versus weak, is one of the things that I will be looking for. Whew, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to spend 90 minutes here because I'm feeling a bit in pain. Oh God, okay. And I'm sorry about my dogs. Like I said, we have scaffolding guys with the door open downstairs. They have a child gate, and they're in the room next door. So the Pomeranian is just about to blow a gasket. Like, that wasn't my house. So, yeah. Jonathan Stewart says, trending up makes sense. Trending down for so long goes against what we've learned about the markets that just go up. Yeah, exactly. And that's another reason to be very careful. I haven't actually looked much at the overnight comments, but I'm guessing it was some kind of a tariff talk or something. Yeah, there we go. We are in... we are in the Trump era of whenever he opens up his mouth, the markets have a really strong reaction because he's a pretty sensationalist guy, and he will he will come up with some big ideas, and obviously the markets will react to that. So yeah. Now we'll see whether he's going to be talking today again, but for now I think all of these comments are from last week. So yeah, obviously the markets are reacting to his comments from last week, and they just decided to do a nice pullback. Let's have a look at the larger time frame because I think that might be useful in equities. Okay, look at that. It's like such a big, beautiful candle, isn't it? We're coming into a bit of a speed bump here, like at, 59.90 roughly. There's also a point of control on the larger visible range time frame. But that doesn't have to mean that it's going to just go up from there, because there is a swing low all the way down at 58.82. Now, what they tend to do, let's focus on this chart. What they tend to do is to basically make all of their shorts in one candle. And you can see that happening here. So we're like, got up, new all-time high, distribute, try to go high, hit the supply, distribute again, and then smash. And the whole thing takes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, basically 2 weeks worth in like one day. So, and already the next day they kind of have a little bit of a pullback, sell off, and then it just goes back up. So we could be in that kind of a situation today where it just does the whole pullback in one day, reaches some demands that are lower down, consolidates for a day, and then reverses and goes back up. But for now, what I can see is that we have an established range. So we clearly had another older demand here that was reactive. So look at that. Look at how nicely it went into a significant originating area, popped into it, and just went whoop, back up, right? So it's very likely that this demand might be the stopping point. But yeah, let's not forget that this is an equity index, and any old speed bump, which is what we have just above point of control on this even bigger visible range, that could be a bounce point too. So we'll see. All right, so gold is trying to turn around slowly. However, again, we've got the speed bump on the 15-minute chart. That is not good enough. We need to go all the way below this and actually close, ideally, at the very least, below 26.64.4. So anything below this area would be game. If that doesn't happen, I'm just going to walk away with a losing day today. Mohammed says, hi, just wanted to ask your 2 questions, please, on call options. Is a shares XYZ selling at $5 with each contract 80 cents if I buy for 30 days for $10? So you are talking about premiums here. So the options have their own pricing, right? So it's not, the option is, you have a strike that will be based on the underlying contract. However, the option premium is a completely different thing and will depend on whether you're buying out of the money options, in the money, at the money, and also how high the volatility is. So the higher the volatility, the premiums will go up. So I'm not really, I wouldn't call myself an options expert. Like, I have traded options, but and obviously I've got a Series 3 that teaches you a lot about that, but it's not, I wouldn't really be giving out advice. Nobody knows everything. And for me, I would say, depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying to create a strategy that's sort of like a hedge, or are you just trying to maybe make extra income by shorting options? Selling options means that you are collecting premiums. Or are you just trying to use a different vehicle so that you don't have to use a stop? In which case, you will be buying puts. So you're basically short, but you just have a strike price. So it really all depends what your intentions are. But please don't get involved in options if you're not really familiar with them, because that can go wrong really quickly. Okay, and you can lose incredible amounts of cash getting it wrong on options. Okay, so be very, very careful, because if you do like uncovered calls or something, and then you effectively just short something and it goes against you, you have an unlimited loss. Like, yes, you can close it, but technically if it goes nuts, all of that is going to whack you on the face. So be very careful. Oh, okay. Yeah, my foot is still sore. That is not a good sign. Elvis says, D, is the support level of 59.97 on ES from 20 is valid? I would say at this point, no support levels are valid, purely because this is such a massive sell-off. And yeah, so be very careful with any sort of supports, because from what I'm seeing, they're just smashing down. Like, there's no indication that anyone's interested in buying this today in equities. I mean, look at this. This is a 30-minute chart. Look at it. 1, 2, 3. Like, we've gone way past all statistical measures, right? Usually the average 30-minute bar consecutive number, like max consecutive number versus average, I think the maximum number is like 10. And the average number of red candles is like 4. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I wouldn't stand in the way of this. I really wouldn't. Like, maybe if you try once, it doesn't work out, just go, and keep going. Like, don't keep trying. Don't do paper cuts. Try one trade against it if you think that might work. But I mean, you're talking about 97. We've already smacked through that. I don't think this is going to do anything. So yeah. Oh, we still have some buying here going on gold. So for now, every time they try to sell it, somebody pops up. That's strength. It's definitely strength. So yeah, maybe second hypo, sustained auction up could be the play here. Because obviously I'm going off the price action, and if the price action is sucky to the downside, you have to consider the other side. It's just a question of how well is this auction doing? I don't think it's doing that well. That's the only problem, because if we had a properly strong auction, we wouldn't distribute for 3 TPOs. Like, this is like 90 minutes of not going anywhere. So I'm still kind of short biased depending on what they do here. And let's say if I want to do that sustained auction long, I would need it to go above the current high of this distribution, which is effectively 71. And then I may have the mean reversion trade up with some momentum. So until that happens, I need to sit on my hands or just wait for another day, because I've got this like foot thing. So I'm not even sure. Like, I might actually have to, I might have to go to A&E, because I think this is more than just a twisted ankle. I have pretty strong bones. Like, I've been doing resistance training and bodybuilding for like years. Not in the last sort of 2-3 years, but not as much. I had like, an athletic background. So, my bones are pretty strong, and I've never really broken anything. I think I broke my toe once, like my little toe. But apart from that, I've never had a serious break or anything. However, just the way my body reacted, I think maybe I've messed it up a little bit more than I think. So, yeah, that's not a great start for me. Just what I needed. But, these things happen, so we just have to deal with them as they come. And don't get me wrong, I've twisted ankles many times. Like, I like wearing high heels when I go out. And, I probably twisted ankles like at least like 10 times in the last 20 years. But it's never quite like this. Usually there's a bit of a twist and then it's fine. This one just totally sent like a weird reaction through my body. Like, look at me, I'm sitting, it's winter, and I'm sitting in like sleeveless shirt because I just couldn't handle it. And I kicked off the stream, and then, I had to go downstairs for a second, and I was rushing. So obviously I twisted my ankle, and then I kind of sat at the bottom of the stairs for a while. So my husband was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I'm in trouble." And he's like, "You don't look good." I went like literally just like completely pale in the face. And then I kind of clambered back up because the stream was already going. I just thought, I'm just going to pop downstairs and come back up. That's why I was late. And then I crawled into my office, and then I laid on the floor for about 5 minutes. So I'm like, this is not good. This is not like the other twisted ankles that I've had. So I may have to go for an x-ray, guys, because it's really painful. Like, I'm trying to push through, but it's just not, it's not easing up. It's worrying. At least they stopped the cold sweat, so that's a positive. Brit Prop Trader says, "Hey Dee, I thought Series 3 was a US thing. Did you do it in the States or were you able to do it in the UK?" I didn't in Chancery Lane. There's a, they have a FINRA testing center, which is by, what was the name of the test service? Starts with P, pro something. Hold on. What's it called? Let me check my email actually, and I'll tell you what it is. But if you go to FINRA, I was actually a bit surprised to see that they had test centers over here. And they do say if you live more than 150 miles away from the nearest test center, you can do it remotely, but you have to be alone in the room. They have to do a 360 check. You cannot use multiple monitors, and you cannot have any pets or other people in the room. So it's, it's a pretty kind of serious thing. But I looked at FINRA website and I would like to book a test. And I booked it, and they said, let's find your nearest test center. And Chancery Lane comes up. It's actually just to the side of Chancery Lane. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. But I mean, I suppose whilst they are US based, they are like an international organization. Futures trading is not only done in the US, it's also done everywhere where you can get the internet connection. And if you are not from the banned countries, you can trade futures. It's no problem, right? So let's see. FINRA. Let's have a look. I'm just going to find the actual thing here. It doesn't say it there. Let's say maybe appointment reminder. Prometric, that's the name. Yeah, so the company that actually does their testing is called Prometric, prometric.com. But you literally just go through the FINRA website, and then you can book your test, and they basically locate the nearest test center. You can even choose. I think they have a few in London. So I don't know where you are in the UK, but if you are anywhere near London, you will probably have to go in. And it was great, you go in there, you can't have any jackets or anything. It's pretty warm in the room. And then they give you the shittiest little calculator and a laminated piece of paper with a black marker pen, which I thought like a Sharpie. And that was just a pointless exercise. I was like, well, what are we doing? What are we doing here? You try and write on it, and I'm left-handed as well, so I try to write on it. And it just smudged everything. So I kind of tried to write without touching things, and that didn't work out pretty well. So in the end, I ended up using the notepad on the actual computer that they give you. And I was just kind of doing my calculations and stuff. I did use the calculator, but it's like the smallest, most horrible little thing that you've ever seen. All right. Gold breaking out, that invalidates my my thing here, and it looks like it's kind of following the equities. So if we take the old idea that you have the equities going down, gold going up, this is some kind of a risk off event. I don't know what caused it, because I don't see anything obvious apart from Trump comments last week. I mean, is that enough to cause a risk? Like, usually risk off tends to happen because of headline risk or something, but maybe his comments were enough to cause this. But either way, I'm done fighting this. I tried one thing or the other side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop in a little long if I can. Now for that, I do want to see this sustain above this area. So we're going to look at bookmap on the other screen, and then I'm going to be out, and quite possibly maybe going to the A&E. God, that's going to be 4 hours of time wasted. Our A&E is, you will get seen, you will get scans, but you will have to sit there for like hours and hours on end. So we'll see. Yeah, Delta is still positive. So let's try popping in a 5 lot here on the MGC. Now this is a full contract on this other side. So I'm just going to use maybe a 50 tick stop here and then just hope for the best. I don't know whether it's going to be enough. But now it's a sustained auction up. And this is what I mean, when I say, I'm catching it pretty late. Because I want to really be sure that the next trade that I do, it's going to... And, there's no guarantees, obviously. So even if it decides to whip back down, that's not going to be great. But at least now I have some space. And we can see how far this is going to run. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's it. We have a question here. So it says, Ramil Ali says, what is going on today in the market? Yeah, I don't know. I've looked, and the only thing that I can find is the Trump comments from last week. So I didn't think that was enough to cause this, but obviously the markets don't care what we think, right? So whatever it is, it's some sort of a risk-off situation. And for now, I wouldn't be fighting that. So it's just down, down, and more down. All right, guys, I'm going to have to finish this up because my ankle is just not playing ball. I'm just still like fighting the pain and stuff. But I am going to let this run and let this play out. If it gets hit, it gets hit, whatever. We'll come back to the markets the next day. But for all intents and purposes, we've now gone over the call resistance, we've gone over GEX2, and the next logical stopping point should be, at the very least, that value low, maybe even a value rotation if we end up going into some mad uptrend that doesn't have a finish line. And that is the hypo number 2 that I wrote somewhere in here, which is a sustained auction up as a mean reversion following the big move down. So that's probably going to be it. This is the third trade that I'm trying today. The first one was a little Nikkei, which didn't really pan out at all. Because usually there's some sort of a reversal, and obviously they're all in risk off, and I was just not really reading that well. And then the second one was the one that you saw here. So if this one doesn't work out, that's like 3 strikes and I'm out for the day. So I'm not aiming to trade, 20 trades, 30 trades. If the day doesn't really start well, it's just best to walk away and come back the next day, which is more important than clicking buttons and just hoping for the best. But yeah, so I looked for a short in gold, didn't happen. Now we have evidence that we might have that continuation, and I'll probably going to be in A&E getting x-rays done. So yeah, my week is off to a great start. Anyway, thank you so much for being here with me today. Hopefully I don't have a cast by tomorrow. But yeah, fun week. We have Dalton and Steamburger coming to TopstepTV. We have the draft, the VIP draft on Wednesday. So I definitely have a team, and the team name is going to be released promptly on Wednesday. So this has been TopstepTV, the London session. My name is Deeyana Angelo, aka Marcus Dee, and I will see you again tomorrow, bright and early, for another episode. Thanks. Take care.